Hello and welcome to Recyclist. I'm your host, Eric Provost, and today I am being joined by an incredibly special guest. Please help me welcome to the show right now, the Director of Coffee County Environmental Services in Alabama, Mr. Mike Thornton. Thank you so much for joining me today, sir.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Awesome. How's your day going, sir? How's your week headed?
The week's going good. Had a few snafus at the start of the week, but that's typical in this industry. But we're ending it on a good note.
Well, I want to say, kind of first off the bat here, congratulations. One of the big reasons that you and I are having this conversation today is you are about to be the recipient of SWANA's Professional Achievement Award for a public sector member. You'll be receiving that award as we're recording this right now. RCON is going to be next month, middle of November, November 12th through the 16th, out in Columbus, Ohio, and you're going to be receiving this award. Congratulations, sir.
Well, thank you. I'm humbled for being nominated and also being awarded. But thank you very much.
If you don't mind my asking, how did you find out that you were going to be winning this? Was it from a social media post? Did you get a phone call? Did somebody just kind of run into your office and tell you?
No, I got a phone call from SWANA International, and they let me know I believe it was on a Friday afternoon, and they asked me to keep it quiet until they made the social media announcement the following week. But they went ahead. They needed to confirm a few things before they made the announcement, so they gave me a phone call and a heads up.
And what was your kind of initial gut reaction to when you got on the phone with them and they told you? What were you feeling?
Well, thought for a minute they might have had the wrong number, but it was kind of a little bit of shock, a little bit of like I said, I was humbled, and anytime I receive an award or have in the past, it's kind of been one of those things where you're not sure if you're deserving or not. So like I said, it was a little shock and a little humble mixed together.
Yeah, there's a quote from you here on Swana's post where you essentially give all of your credit to your team and to the people that have helped you. You say, quote, "My receipt of this award would not have been possible without the support of the people that I have surrounded myself with, from great employees and unwavering mentors to peers, friends, colleagues, and my family." In terms of mentors in the industry, is there anyone that specifically you credit as a key factor in getting you to this point in your career?
Oh, there's so many. I have to go back to a gentleman named Randy Tyndall that actually hired me with Coffee County uh, 25 years ago, and it just kind of grows from there. There's so many, I'm afraid to leave them out. To try to even name them all, but it's such a wide-reaching industry that you have a lot of people that will influence your career over 25 years. So it's been a lot, and it's not always the older people being the mentors. Sometimes you pick up some younger folks along the way that teach you a thing or two about the industry as well.
Are there any lessons you've learned over the past, 2.5 decades at this point that have maybe surprised you, or any, things that you weren't expecting to pick up?
Well, I mean, 25 years is a good portion of your life, and
That's fair.
yeah, you've got to, you learn a lot as you move. It doesn't matter what you're doing, but in this industry, the biggest thing is you have to learn to adapt to change and accept change, and also accept that you're going to strive for perfection, but you're never going to fully achieve it. So, you have to learn to take the wins when you get the wins, learn from the things that knock you down, and get back up, dust yourself off, and keep moving forward and improving as you move.
Yeah, that was actually, I'm glad you brought that up. That was going to be another thing I was going to touch on, is any philosophies that have helped carry you to this point. But be flexible, I guess, is one of the big things that you found.
Oh, definitely. You have to be flexible, and then the other thing, one of the biggest things is the way you treat people. the way you make them part of your team, the way you bring them in, the way you make sure that they understand that they're an integral part, and also that what they do is important, regardless of where they're at in the particular structure you're in. Those that being flexible and making sure that people understand where they fit and how important they are to success is a big key to my success.
And you're coming up on a full quarter century at Coffee County, and obviously there's been a lot of changes to the industry over the years, and there's been a lot of changes to where you guys are at right now. You have, I'll go ahead and touch on this since we're here. You guys have even picked up additional landfills in the time since you've been there. What was that process like, and how is that, helping to enhance Coffee County's capabilities?
Well, it's changed a lot. I started as a landfill manager at our primary landfill that's called the Coffee County
Hmm.
landfill, and picking up that second regional landfill, it was a big challenge. It was not necessarily well received by the general public, but the primary reason for picking it up was to give us flexibility and also ensure we had space for disposal. Being a governmental regional landfill, not only do we have to provide the space for disposal of the MSW and the construction and demolition material for our own county, we have numerous other political entities that rely on us to provide their disposal space as well. So that was one of the big keys for picking that particular facility up.
In terms of hurdles, in terms of getting that taken care of, was it mostly just kind of the public perception, or their hesitancy to take that extra landfill on that you saw as the biggest challenge, or were there anything else that any other lessons learned from that experience you think may be important to others in the same situation in the future?
Well, as a governmental entity, public perception is always going to be one of the key influencers of any decision that you make,
Yeah.
whether the public perception is right or wrong. The other thing is the private sector was not real fond of it, but they many of the ones in our area understood because they had attempted to open and operate it several times in the past, and each time they had failed and closed it, and it just we had an event in Coffee County in 2007 that used up 100% of our construction and demolition space, one event, and so the needed space kind of drove that, and that's how we sold it to everyone involved. Is this is how we provide space for the area.
Yeah, and in terms of keeping it going day to day, how has that even looked like from when you started doing this at the beginning of the century to now? How has just day to day operations evolved? Do you even recognize what your job even looks like anymore compared to when you came on?
Oh, sure. There's always going to be some base things that don't change. One of the things that you'll hear a lot of people say, a landfill's a landfill when you get to the working phase.
Hmm.
There's changes in the way you track what we do. Drone technology has absolutely changed the game in this industry. But when you get there, it's all about uh, identifying the waste, putting the waste in the proper place, compacting the waste, and covering the waste. And those things aren't going to change, but the training of the employees that has changed over time. The change of the perception from a garbage man to a solid waste professional has changed significantly over time because all of those equipment operators, all of those people that make things work, they have to be professional in order to make it work. So that's probably one of the biggest things that I've seen change is the perception of the employees and also the amount of training that's available to bring those employees into that professional mindset.
When it comes to governmental regulation, both at a state and federal level. When it comes to Alabama, is that something you always kind of have to have your eye on, or has Alabama historically been very friendly and very forthcoming when it comes to new laws and new bills passed in regards to landfill regulation?
The state of Alabama has been a partner in the industry for a long time, all of my career, really. Obviously, when you're dealing with the the connection between operators and regulators, there's going to be some friction, but the Alabama Department of Environmental Management has been very good at bringing in stakeholders, operators, before they introduce legislation, before they bring on a new initiative, to get the input from the operators as well as the general public, and kind of find that happy medium where we can continue to operate, but they can satisfy some other things that may need to be addressed within the industry and the environmental community. So it's over 25 years, it's changed and evolved with different regulators coming and going, but it's pretty well stayed the same and pretty consistent. They've been a working partner with the industry in the state of Alabama.
I want to circle back very quickly to the drones that you mentioned. Have you has Coffee County adopted a strong drone program?
Yeah, we purchased a drone. I guess it's been about a year and a half ago,
Hmm.
and my only issue with that is it makes me want more information and more information to improve our processes. And a lot of my pilots and my engineer, they're constantly saying, "Well, I can give you that, but do we really need it right now?" But it's such a change, and that's one of the big changes in the industry. You know, 25 years ago, you did a flyover, and depending on where you at, it may have been every 6 months, it may have been once a year, and so you kind of had to wait on that data to confirm your compaction rates. Well, now if I desire, I can go out there and fly the drone every day. But right now we're using it as a once every 2 week check on our compaction, and also the programs that come with that drone. I can look at how my stormwater is going to flow over a new section of the site and make changes before that heavy rain comes. And I realize I didn't have things laid out as good as they could be. It's just really, really allowed me as an operator, as a manager, to drill down into the operation and correct things that I otherwise might have had to wait a year to correct, 25 years ago.
Now, you say that when you get the drone out there, it just makes you want even more data. Have you ever had any conversations with the manufacturers, with the creators of these drones, saying, "Hey, what if we could do this? What if we had this capability?" Have those conversations been had?
Oh, yeah, and one of the things that we're looking at now is that we're running a landfill gas collection system and putting uh,
Yes.
the gas into the line. Well, where are we losing our methane at? In other words, do we have any places that it's escaping? Uh, so that type of technology. Plus, we don't have any issues with it right now, and hopefully won't in the future. But also detection around the edges. Making sure it's not leaving the property or the lined area as well. So, that's one of the pieces of the technology that's kind of growing and improving. But we've even we initially just bought the base package, but we've bought other cameras like lidar, where we can actually see through trees ourselves and kind of make a determination on where we're going to get our dirt, our cover dirt and construction dirt for future projects without clearing the trees and getting an idea of the lay of the land. In other words, we can get that lay of the land right now. So, those things are going to continue to just improve and make it a necessary asset for just about any landfill.
Yeah, between the drones, honestly, I'm not even familiar with the LightDAR system that you're talking about, but I did want to talk a little bit about the renewable natural gas program that you just kind of touched on, um, because that's obviously something that we're seeing much more and more throughout the industry. Is many more landfills and many more solid waste operators are adopting this idea of introducing landfill gas collection systems to create renewable natural gas as a form of renewable energy. Did you have any initial hesitation when you heard about what the capabilities were? Was it a pretty quick adoption? What was your process from when you first heard about this to bringing it on, or bringing it in rather, to Coffee County?
Well, it kind of started in two phases for Coffee County. We installed our initial landfill gas collection and control system as a voluntary system uh, back when carbon credits were a viable funding source for projects like what we have.
Hmm.
And so we were leaning forward there. The carbon credit market ran its course. We were funded for 10 years in that program, and then carbon credits kind of dropped to a point where they were not a viable funding source for a while. So we just operated uh, kind of on our own voluntarily, and finally, some of the credits and other stuff, we managed to partner with a private entity that came in and actually uh, partnered with us on the expansion of our system, and also put in the landfill gas plant to clean the gas, because it has to be a pipeline quality gas, and we're putting it
Yes.
straight into the pipeline. Uh, the, you know, it's pretty difficult, or it can be difficult at times, to meld a governmental entity with a private entity. So, we that was about a 3 year process. Plus, you had a little bit of tail end COVID in there, on that project. So, I guess we started talking 5 years ago, and it finally came to full fruition, putting gas in the pipeline about a year ago, November last year, when we started running the tests and putting part of the gas in the line. And now we're anywhere between 800 and 1,000 SCFM a day going into the plant.
Any thoughts right now to add that to the other landfill that you have?
Potentially, the uh, the issue with the other landfill is I'm not certain there's enough waste in place to make it a viable project. Uh, we're looking at it, and also you've got some funding issues on the private side with the development of landfill gas right now. So, yeah, it's definitely something we're continuously looking at. That landfill is located in a different area. Coffee County's primary landfill is a very rural area, uh, and the Brundage landfill that we own is in it's not a heavy industrial area, but it's got other things around it that might could influence what we could do, and electricity may be a better option for that particular site. So we're evaluating that. It's just a matter of finding the time, the funding sources, and the right way to put that particular project in.
Yeah, when you brought on the other landfill, when you brought that into the fold, I read that it was largely for redundancy. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
When it comes to that aspect of the business, for those who may not be familiar, what does that mean?
Well, when you have a limited amount of space, regardless of how big your landfill is.
Yeah,
How big of a permitted footprint. Uh, like I said before, we had an event. We had a tornado in 2007 that went through one of our biggest city and enterprise, and it generated enough waste that we used up roughly 70 years of construction and demolition space over the
from that
course of
one storm.
one storm.
Wow.
Your flow or your space available is based on the amount of flow you have. So, all of a sudden it's just like we filled that C&D up. Matter of fact, we had to go to the Alabama Department of Environmental Management to actually construct some space that was not already constructed in an emergency setting in order to be able to handle it. So, when that other landfill became available, the discussion became, okay, we've restabilized, but if one event can take away that much space at one time, you know, what do we do if you have two of those events, back to back years, one major
Yeah,
hurricane and one major tornado. And you never want to have one, but as a governmental entity, you have to plan for that
you have to
event.
plan for it. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And we just quite frankly, several years ago, we barely missed the edge of Hurricane Michael, which devastated Panama City, Florida, and even got parts of Dothan and Houston County in southeast Alabama. And then here just not long ago, Hurricane Helene, which devastated the Carolinas and parts of Georgia, with the flooding and several other things going on up there, that that just barely skirted our edge as well. So, all it took was a little jog to the left and on either of those events, and we would have had a major event that we had to deal with and had to have space to deal with.
70 years worth of that sounds like a Herculean effort. When you look back on your career, would you think that that's probably one of the biggest challenges that you had to face?
Oh yes, yes, definitely. That when you deal with an event like that, you're dealing with FEMA, you're dealing with the Corps of Engineers, you're dealing with the local governmental entity, you're dealing with volunteers, you're going to deal with homeowners that are doing their own cleanup. Uh, and then the sheer, I mean, our trucks, unique trucks per day
Hmm.
went from around 80 trucks a day to 180 trucks a day. So we,
More
we
than double.
more than doubled our trucks. So, we found out a lot of things about our landfill. Number one, our road infrastructure was not built to handle that. We didn't have inbound, outbound scales at that time. Just a lot of things that event showed us where things kind of weren't as good as we thought they were, or weren't as good as they could be. And it forced some changes, which were a good thing. You don't want to go through that event to find the changes, but that's usually what happens when it's a major event.
Aside from the road quality, the scales, were there any other? I mean, for anybody out there, because there's so many landfills within Hurricane Alley, obviously. Any other lessons learned that might have surprised you during that you think may benefit other people who, because unfortunately this is going to happen again at some point and people are going to need to know as much as possible. Anything that you went through or anything that you learned through that process that you think may be valuable to others aside
Uh,
from what you've just mentioned?
yeah, I mean, I could probably write a book on lessons learned for a few things, but
I think that'd be really interesting because I mean,
I,
genuinely, like, I can't imagine trying to do something like that. Obviously, waste collection is such an integral part of all of our lives, but when something so devastating happens, people talk about rebuilding. Not a lot of information, not a lot of people talk about where all that stuff that got devastated goes and who has to deal with it. I genuinely think that'd be a fascinating book.
oh yeah, it is. I mean, disaster management is a part of our industry where we kind of get lost in the mix. When I say us, that's the entirety of the industry. That's the people picking it up and the landfill or the grinding site final disposition. Uh, Probably one of the biggest things I learned from that particular event, or one of the things I could pass on is FEMA's kind of running the show, but they don't tell you how to run your site, and you have to
Hmm.
stand your ground. And one of the main issues we've always operated on tonnage, and FEMA likes to operate on cubic yardage, and that was one place that I held firm. Uh, we weren't going to do cubic yardage estimates. We were going to run it all across our scales, and at the end of it, they actually admitted that made their job a lot easier as well. So that was one of the key
I mean,
things.
go figure. You've only been doing that job for 20 years. Go figure you might know what you're talking about.
And that's from our aspect as a governmental entity, and it really doesn't matter if you're governmental or private, but you're set up to manage your tipping fees, your tonnages, everything is based on that ton. Most landfills nowadays are not based on a cubic yard. So, it's kind of a antiquated piece that the federal government had held on to. And, we just stood our ground and said, look, we're not going to change our entire accounting system. This is how we report it to the state of Alabama. This is how we've reported it to the state of Alabama since we opened in 1993. This is the way we're going to do it. So, and that took some back and forth. The only other thing I would say is you you have to get out and kind of help your governmental partners when they start doing their estimates for any public building damage that might have been done because we had an entire high school, a 7A, the largest classification of high school in the state of Alabama. We had a 7A high school that was not totally wiped off the map, but it was damaged to the point it couldn't be salvaged, and they had to take an entire building down. And when they bid it, the contractor that came in and bid it, he didn't even estimate enough to cover the tipping fees on what they were going to have to haul off. So the governmental entities sitting there looking at it and saying, "Well, this is a great price," and I'm sitting there saying, "Yeah, I don't think you can accept that one." So it's kind of having that plan in place and how you're going to estimate the debris, but also being that good partner where you're willing to go and sit down and do some advising for the other governmental partners.
I certainly want to ask about a specific role that you've been working in for quite some time. I imagine that there were quite a few tires that you came into possession of because of the storm. And as the chairman of the Alabama Scrap Tire Commission, you were uniquely qualified to deal with that, thankfully. How big of a role has that been in your career over the past so many years?
Oh, I've been on the Scrap Tire Commission for 23 years. I've been the chairman for the last 10, I believe, 10 or 12. Uh, that has been a big part of my career. One of the reasons is all the different industry that was brought together to address the issues of scrap tires in the state of Alabama. You have everybody from the tire dealers to the Rubber Manufacturers Association to the power company, Alabama Power or Southern Company, uh, right on down a list of people that have started out and been involved in addressing the issue. And the issue was we had large tire disposal sites, illegal dumps, throughout the state of Alabama, and some of them had as many as 3 million tires in them, and
Three
one,
million?
yes, a piece. Yeah, there were several big sites that had over 3 million tires in them. And matter of fact, one of the ones that we cleaned up, we actually found a house buried, not a huge house, but a house nonetheless buried in the tire pile itself. Uh, yeah. So uh,
Like,
yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people may have in their minds going to, possibly a derelict house and cleaning up around and maybe finding a tire underneath some trash, but finding a house underneath tires has got to
Right.
be one of the funniest things I've ever heard.
Well, it's funny, but at the same time, it's unfortunate too that it was
That's fair.
it was allowed to happen and build and grow. And as part of the commission, we cleaned up every large site that we had across the state of Alabama, and it cost. The state of Alabama had implemented $1 per tire that helped with cleanups. And now we're to the point where we've got all the large sites cleaned up, and I'm making it sound a lot simpler than it was, but now we're kind of putting out the smaller sites, catching them before they become into these larger scale sites, getting them cleaned up, and also we're taking that $1 per tire and we're kind of almost like a recycling fund. The state of Alabama is funding some projects to improve the use of scrap tire material. You've got your usual projects like your splash pads and your walking
Yeah.
trails and
Yeah.
those types of things. But we really moved into the rubber modified asphalt world and partnered with our state parks, our Department of Natural Resources to resurface their state park roads with tire material, different mixtures. We've also partnered with uh, the National Center for Asphalt Technology at Auburn University and funded some tests on some different mixes and those types of things because I'll just be honest with you, a tire is very difficult to process and it's also difficult to get rid of. And you hear about the athletic fields and the turfs and the other stuff, but the amount of tires that those use is about 20% of the entirety of the scrap tire population. So you still got another 80% of what do we do with these tires, and those are the types of things that we're moving towards. So that's been a very fulfilling part of my career because I've
Sounds
got to
like it.
see it. Yeah, I've got to see it go from hey, this is a really bad situation to we've improved the situation and now we're looking for continuous improvement and hopefully getting to a point that we can use up most of the scrap tires generated.
I imagine, yeah, with the amount of asphalt that's generated, with the number of roads that are built and repaired every year, I imagine there's a lot of potential there for scrap tire. I'm sure a lot of people out there, possibly even some young people within the industry, may be surprised to hear how big of a problem scrap tires are, and may be surprised to hear that entire scrap tire commissions are required. But I'll admit, even I was surprised to hear that you had these illegal sites with literally millions a piece. So I assume you'd estimate that you've dealt with tens of millions of tires at this point.
Oh yes, yes. I want to say the last estimate was we've cleaned up over 30 million tires. In the small site dumps and the larger dumps over the
That's
course of this
amazing.
program.
Congratulations.
Well, I appreciate it, but it's we talked about the Alabama Department of Environmental Management earlier. They've been
Hmm.
a key partner with this, and all the other partners as well. The tire dealers have been behind it. You've got the Association of County Commissions in Alabama that's been behind it. Right on down the list. So there's a lot of private and governmental involvement that our commission is one of those things that's actually worked. And I've had to talk to the our legislature many times to kind of justify the program. That dollar per tire that everybody has to pay when they buy a new tire.
Yeah.
But I've told them, I said this is one program that you can say is working. That the money's not just being thrown away; it's actually going to a use. I
Yeah.
mean, even the fund is being used to help counties address tires that are thrown on the right of way and collect them and make sure that they get to a proper either processing or disposal point.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm sure that's something you've had to deal with the entire time. Is I'm sure for the uneducated, I'm sure something like the Alabama Scrap Tire Commission, you just look at that on a piece of paper, and I'm sure it immediately jumps out to legislators as some type of superfluous program that could easily be cut from the state budget. But I'm glad that you're there to educate the people on that. For other people dealing with scrap tires across the country and different other state commissions, you've had a lot of success with the asphalt route.
We've in Alabama, we're kind of new to the game with bringing the asphalt into the state. Um,
Hmm.
the uh, the other states are way ahead of us when it comes to the implementation. I mean, Georgia's got a really good asphalt program. Our bordering states do have a good tire derived asphalt. A lot of you states up north, they do a lot with a tire derived aggregate. Uh, and it's just what works in the area is kind of what makes it all unique, and it's very unique see what Arizona's doing right now, or see what Minnesota's doing right now, because everybody's kind of got a little different take, and sometimes you can kind of take that piece home with you and say, hey, maybe we need to look at this. Uh, we're like I said, we're right there on the edge of bringing the asphalt in, and one of the things that you have to do anytime you bring a program like that, you have to convince the road builders, right, that this is a viable product and it's a viable project. And you also have to convince the engineers, the governmental engineers that this is a viable product that in a lot of ways may outlast the traditional asphalt mixes that you have. So, we do this. State of Alabama does fund some of those projects, kind of as demonstration projects, and that's one of the reasons that we've partnered with Natural Resources to fund some of their resurfacing, because people can go look at those pretty easily and get a good determination on it.
It sounds like a monumental. I appreciate you talking to us about it. That incredibly interesting. I do. I've taken up a lot of your day already, but I did want to touch on one other aspect of your career up to this point, just momentarily. You also serve on the board of directors for Swan's international operations. Correct?
I did, yes, sir. I did. I served 2 years on the international board. Yeah.
So what is, the Solid Waste Association of North America? What kind of function do they serve on an international stage?
Well, the international stage is, it's North America, so we have Canada and we have the United States, and then
Yes.
so that makes it international in and of itself. But also, what I've seen, what I've noticed, we get a lot of participation from around the world. SWANA is the leader in education, for the solid waste industry, and there's not a lot of these programs available to other people in the rest of the world. So,
Hmm.
it's one of those things where I taught the manager of landfill operations course at Waste Expo back in the spring, and we had people in that class from Israel, from I'm trying to think, a couple from Africa, and we also had people that saw it on the schedule that wanted just to come in and sit in on that course because they can't get it where they're from, and
Hmm.
they're just like we are. We go to conferences and training events here to find out new things and kind of take the pieces home with us to improve our processes. So I think that's one of those things that Swan is kind of going to be on the leading edge of going forward, as well as continuing to provide what's necessary, in the what I call the home base, which is the North America Canada piece.
And dealing with people from all over the world and teaching and educating people from so many other countries and all the conversations that you've had in that regard. Have you had a conversation that's kind of set off a light bulb for you? It's like, hey, that's a great question, or hey, that's a great point. Maybe that's something that we should think about stateside, or maybe even something we should think about in Coffee County.
Yeah, yes. You're always going to take something back with you. I learn. I visit landfills everywhere I go. It doesn't matter if it's
Hmm.
family vacation or if it's just Mike on a trip. If there's a landfill there and I can get access to it, I'm gonna visit it. And one of the reasons is I learn something at every landfill I go to. So, interacting with somebody that brings a different perspective, a different challenge, maybe something you've never thought about, maybe something they implemented that might work well here. Everywhere's a little different. We talk about vectors and animals that have an effect on your landfill operation in the U.S. and Canada. You don't think about lions and tigers as being a problem for a landfill, but in parts of the world they are. So you have to kind of take that into account, and well, how do you deal with that? And maybe you can take what they use to deal with lions and tigers in other parts of the world at their landfills. Maybe what might apply to bears here. So you're always going to take a little piece of somebody else with you anytime you interact with them. So, That's a big part of education. That's why I enjoy teaching the course.
I'm sure there's a lot more still to be done in that regard. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, though, but I really want to thank you for, again, joining us today and talking to us about this really, really interesting career that you've had. I'll be, let me know when you put that book out. I'll be on the lookout for Amazon for it. But for anybody who would like to get in contact with you and maybe talk about a tire program or talk about, the international stage or ask you any questions, how can people reach out to Coffee County or you in particular, sir?
Oh, I'm on the website with Coffee County, Alabama. It's coffeecounty.us. They can do a simple Google search and find me that way. I don't mind putting my email address out there. It's mike.thornton at coffeecounty, all one word, .us. That's spelled just like the coffee we drink. Uh, so, and that's email. Just quite honestly, that's one of the best ways to get up with me.
Wonderful. And once again, congratulations on the award. Again, as we're recording this in October 2025, you'll be receiving it next month, November 2025. And if you're out there listening to this right now and you've got time, go ahead and join us at RCON in Columbus, Ohio. November 12th through the 16th. We're going to have a lot of fun out there. Swan is going to give out a couple awards, including to my wonderful guest right here, and it's going to be a great old time. So go ahead and check that out if you haven't already. And if you're listening to this afterwards, go ahead and send Mike an email, congratulate him on the award. But once again, sir, thank you so much for joining me today. Good luck on the future and everything that you have left in your career over at Coffee County.
Well, thank you very much. I've enjoyed it.
And for everybody out there listening to this right now, if you could also give some love to Diamond Scientific, an industry leader in gas analysis, instrumentation, and solutions. You can check them out online right now at diamondsci.com. That's diamondsci.com. Or you can set up a personalized presentation just by calling 321-223-7500. Thank you so much for joining us today for Recyclist. Once again, I've been your host, Eric Provost, and we will see you back here next time. Thank you.